What's going on, YouTube? Time for a recap. Interesting one. Interesting through the weekend. Monday, potential Black Monday. The world's ending. DeepSeek's going to take over the world. Come on now. Hype, fear, and greed drive the market. This is something that we peek on the channel or peek into on the channel all the time. And we understand hype, fear, and greed. That's the number one catalyst. Without hype, fear, and greed and fear-mongering from the news, from the psychology of traders doing knee-jerk reactions, we would not have the volatility we have. If you are interested in seeing a pre-market breakdown, I did one right here. Links on X and, of course, my YouTube, where we did a full pre-market breakdown on how we traded the pre-market with the news. Because if you're like me, on the Discord, we watched the futures open, and we talked about a dump to the downside at our futures open. So 5 p.m. Central Time, futures open for me. And this came out right here to that downside. The NQ gapped immensely. Posted in my chat right away. I said, out of a little short ride, but here it is earlier. Gap and go to the down, has the size for open here. Golden levels below need tags. So we noted right here that the gap on NQ is insane, and we had gold level tags that needed to happen last night at 5 p.m. So 21,321 to 21,257 here, okay? And the gap that this left right here, just at a technical aspect, is an algorithm shitstorm. It is a golden absolute monstrosity. We love to see these, actually, because we know 2025 is going to be a very volatile market. Trump's back. The China tweets are back. I want to see the volatility. I love the moves that he creates. It's an amazing thing. So as we posted targets about 300 and some points away there last night for the Discord, that's what we wanted to see for the short part of the week. We got panic overnight. And if you watched all the hype from the DeepSeek and how it was going to take on our market, I don't know, we did just fine. So we had did a lot of long calls here this morning after the knife dropped to 21,000 area, right? And we knew that was kind of coming here, and long watch above 21,096, still big upside. We actually had 22,008 and 150 points called here through the Discord, just showing you guys a couple little areas that we had talked about. So we walked ourselves all the way through these trades, talked about the Thinkorswim's 100 EMA. We don't use TradingView because that's the wrong data. Long above 21K for the day, and we wanted to see upside. So we had a beautiful reset and retest. Where's the big one? There we go. That had to do with the gaps today. We're going to go over those. As we posted, I said still on target for over 100 point long and 100 EMA. We had, where's our other one? 5-minute fair value gap target push. We posted this one on X, and we had a opportunity to see, the bounces on Fibonacci. So I pointed out right here, 591.76 was a golden bounce zone. We were going to come up to 598.63 on SPY. A lot of great stuff here. And here's that last call right here, 1 minute algo gap, 21,208, as we said, long from 2,859. That was the break at 21K. And man, do we understand NQ's personality for that. It was amazing. A lot of news, fluff, and pump. And as we like to do in the Discord, here's our plays, man. We had a nice little $6,000 opening trade there on the big one. Then we just rode it up all day. Let's talk about it. So we'll start here on the X as well. If you want to check out that video right here, I did a pre-market breakdown. It's right there on what to expect from the market. We draw these pretty pictures for the group, and we talk about having short opportunities here underneath that 100 fib. We'll talk about here in a little bit. I was really excited for a late day short under 600, as we posted right here. SPY to 600 first from our videos, and that's the long. So SPY needs to go up to 600 first before it has an attempted go down. So we were long until 600 for the day. Under 600, I would have took my short or close to the 1618, and I'll explain where that is in the algos here, nice and easy. And then our fun banger of a short here. I even did some beautiful short scalps here today on ES. 1 minute resistance supply zone, close the short right here in the green. And again, we're going for that 100 EMA back test, and I'll explain that as well. So we had some interesting algos sort of on the Qs. We'll do both today here. Looks like we're not going to be able to. There we go. We'll start on SPY because that's where the MacBook doesn't want to open anything else. So SPY long to 600 first. Okay, and we had the big old moving averages here. If you see these giant lines, these were a big precursor to the trade day. 10 SMA, 50 SMA. The 10 SMA in the blue, 50 SMA here. Those are the daily representations. So these big dashed lines are the 10 SMA and the 50 SMA, but on the daily time frame, they're just coded inside our intraday charts. So we had a trade plan here that I was really excited about, the under short of 596. We could only enter that short, as I drew the candle right here, once it got inside the algo, right? Very typical stuff. So we have an algo here in pre-market. high low, right? High low, looking good. And we needed to see that come down and usually tag the golden pocket before it goes back up. But it is a very crazy hype fear greed day. So we're not looking at perfect technical analysis here. We're looking at shying. So price action opened up, squeezed up. Now, something I told my chat as well is you see this gray box right here? That's the daily gap. NQ and ES opened up in SPY and QQQ's daily gap. Okay, so where I got that, it's right here, right? The gap days back here between the 16th and the 17th, that big gap up, that's where we opened up. And I told my chat very specifically, if we open up inside the gap, not above, not below, inside, it's 100% long, okay? So we were big on that for the trade day. And as we can see here, I also called pre-market. We were getting pinned to this gap. So you can see the price action. The light gray is the gap. Comes in, gets pinned into the gap action right here. We opened up in the gap, in the gray box, and off she went long. And that was the whole precursor for the day. For the trade day, just to touch on Qs right here, did the exact same thing. Opened up inside the gap. This big gray box right here is the daily gap on QQQ. We opened up in the gap. We have the algos on the low side for this long. And we'll go over that chart in a minute. But that was one of the biggest takeaways here for the trade day. So we knew that we were going to go long if it opened up inside the gap. And let's go over the targets. So long inside the gap blew apart, right? So the short I just talked about here was this green box short. So let's talk about that one first. We're going to talk about the 100 EMA here. Now, price action opened in the gap, and we assumed big longs. We scalped out of the gate. I had this as a resistance point, as we covered in the first part of the video, long from the 423 that was in pre-market back to 598.63. Talked about that on X and Twitter. So that hit was right here on the Fibonacci. Where does that Fibonacci come from? Well, if you tuned in Thursday, Friday of last week, we knew the short coming into Friday was all based off Thursday's no tag GP. This is Thursday's candle. All these gold levels are Fibonacci points from the high and the low of the candle. It's pointed to the downside, and the extensions play out to 423.60 right here. This was our pre-market bounce. So this is how I caught the knife today as well, the dull one, because it's easy when you got big Fibonacci levels. So let's take a peek at what happened here in pre-market. Wow, okay, 423.60. What do we know about Fibonacci's, right? After something hits on a Fib, even if it's pre-market here, we're just utilizing it as a, hey, we've already dumped an amazing amount of points off a knee-jerk AI title, because our markets are so inflated, so hard-pressed to utilize the AI, bubble. That's the hype. That's everything's just driven off AI, everything. If we don't do AI, we don't have a market, okay? Solely off NVIDIA and the Magnificent Seven. With the chippers, we've been talking about this for years, right? AI is the bubble. It's just like the dot-com bubble. Eventually, we'll get away from it. So this algo right here, mixed with the 423.6, was the determining longs, okay? So long here, and where does a Fibonacci usually retrace to? 423.6 goes to the 2618, because these are what? First tags. We talk about first tags all the time. This is not a first tag. It isn't pre-market, but we don't have a live tag of it, okay? So just remember that. But we had a first tag of the 2618 from last Thursday's candle to the downside, which first tag is always a great reaction point, right? So let's delete some of these. I wanted the short underneath the fib, so we're going to delete these right here, and we'll talk about why. That one might be too hard to delete. First tag of the 2618 pulls back down. What do we know for confirmation, right? We need a back test. Now, I'd rather miss it than risk it, and that's confirmation trading. When we broke upside from the gap long open we called, we ran into the target of 598.63, and we were looking for 600 later to short unless the 200 SMA in the peach pulls us back down. So let's take a peek at that. Rejects the first tag, 598.63, back test 100 EMA confirmation. That's because of this right here. Price action opened, slammed through the 50, right? That's the daily 50, big old red dash line, slammed through the VWAP, 10 SMA, and the 100 EMA in the green 5-minute chart, okay? Broke up, hit resistance target, long target becomes short entry, boom, back test. So this candle open, broke through that 100 EMA, hit resistance, and then back tested the 100 EMA that it flew through because it magnets back down from resistance point, back test confirmation, and back to long to our 600. So we had an outlook to short later on in the day, and that's what I wanted to see on X, was not short until 600 or this orange zone. So this was the orange zone, and as we usually do, we get in and out early, right? So if I was writing the back-tested 100 EMA along and I was like, all right, I'm not going to hold till exactly 600. I'm going to be taking those profits on the way up, especially over the gold level of our first tag. This is no longer a first tag. Here's the first tag. Here's the second, right? And then we drew this big red candle in case we got some good speed underneath it, right? Because that was an outlook for short. But we made it long to 600 first. That was the key for SPY, okay? And that's what we posted on X. Well, here's 600. Didn't tag it. So are we looking for an easy short? Nope. Never got the entry. So no big deal. We did come close to shying the 1618. Now here's where tomorrow is going to come into big play with this. Okay. If we sit tight and don't do a full retrace to go pound this gap, we are going to need to utilize 600 and the golden pocket that never tagged down here, right? So let's remove some of these so we can see that big purple zone. The algorithm in pre-market is very, very unique here. We love to see no tags. That means it was created in pre-market and no price action ever came down to the golden pocket before it went long. That's very important. So we're going to keep on this algorithm right here on the pre-market tail. That's going to be a very big point of interest. Now, we said long to 600 or the 1618. We shied it. And then it got it after hours. Doesn't count. Still don't have a 600 tag on the live chart, okay? So 600 coming into tomorrow, if we are price actioned up here and it's just chopping through the night because of indecision, confusion, the knee jerk turns into panic, turns into, well, maybe it's okay if DeepSeek is a counterpart because they used NVIDIA GPUs and then they start spinning that positive news, right? So if price action sits above that 600 and comes down, we're going to come back down to 600 before rallying up. Or if it flops for a little while here in chops, we're going to open under and plow into 600. That's going to be a trade tomorrow over under 600. Okay, we're going to leave this algorithm on for now, and we'll go over to Qs and talk about the Qs trade day. So we had a lot of different outlooks here on Qs, and the same thing. We had this today, and that's the hopes, and we did fill it right here at the end of the day to the penny because the algorithms care about daily gaps more than like 90% of what your technical analysis is. Here's one algo in the pre, big boy here, and then another algo created all by its lonesome tiny guy right here. We fibbed out both of those, okay? We had a bunch of predictions here for shorting the golden pocket and longing too, okay? Let's go over a couple of those. We don't need oscillation today. So opening up in the gap was the call long, pushes into the 1618. Where's the 1618 from? Right here. High low like always on algos. Did it come and hit a live tag of the golden pocket? Nope, which means it can return to 51041 at some point today after it pulls back. So the long bias was above here and pushing into the golden pocket, right? That's this big green candle right here. That was the prediction. I said long out of the gap. And the highest point in which we could see is the golden pocket at 519 and 6 cents. Did we make it there? No, we shied it by a few cents. No big deal. So let's delete that. And then the other outlook was obviously, because that is a long exit at the 50, was to short near the 50 fib, right? Let's get rid of this candle because that was another short under the 1618, which happened. We just had the price action there. So with this tiny little algo here versus that huge algo where you see the golden pocket here, that's that big pre-market wick on Thinkorswim, no other platform. And when we see, what is this? Turn off. There we go. When we see a no golden pocket tag, we generally like to see it run up to resistance and fall back into the golden pocket of something to back test because we have a no tag. SPY did not tag this, okay? So it's very important to keep in mind that the price action will be returning to that SPY algo. It did on the Qs today, okay? So we back up and we said short bias down to the gap fill, opened in the gap, pushed, and then went short, right? We got rejected the 50 SMA daily. That's the big red dash line here. Came down, broke outside, and filled the daily gap and launched itself out. No big deal. If we would have got a best case scenario, we're talking about some best case scenarios there in the blue. For the short, for the long, too short, we would have used that bottom fib here. But this bottom fib let us know that a breakout through the gap, which we had already called, breakout through 512 was going to net us the 1618 and potentially the 2618. But what comes before the 2618? Moving average tags, right? One thing to keep in mind, moving averages are great for magnet targets. We always love to keep moving averages on because when it ran into that 5-minute 200 SMA here, it actually conked out and went down before hitting an absolutely perfect resistance, right? We wanted to see 519.06, but we said the 5-minute 200 SMA could come into contact and it could ruin that long trade. And I wanted to get in short there or under the moving averages, of course. So let's delete these. As it came back down, filled the gap, and then went long in a day. That's something that we said to look for. Now, what's the prediction for the bounce here for catching that knife? So we had a lot of breakdown on the NQ. You can see it here in the pre-market, but the bounce point on how we know NQ's personality, and this is a big takeaway from our trade day. We came into here and I started buying the bottom here and everybody's like, oh, knife catch. Oh my God, scary. No. 100 EMA is at 20,833. What do we know about NQ? It likes to slip. And what we mean by slip is price action likes to fly through price levels that should hold, right? It gives you this false sense of hope. And I'll give you this trend line here, which is standard old trend line, not very crazy amazing. We drew this today in pre-market, talked about it for our trade group and said this is the back test line and we're going to have to hold that to maintain any kind of bullishness or breakthrough to maintain bearishness. So this trend line was a back test of knee-jerk AI hype, right? All that fear. Oh my God, China's taking over the world because they have free ChatGPT-4. Come on now. It's not how that works. That's fear and hype. Number one catalyst. We love it. But this trend line comes into a breakdown, right? So when something breaks out of trend, right? On last week, and what do we talk about AI? Watch my live video. What do we talk about AI? We're going to pause this technical breakout. We're going to swing this baby over here. What is this? The AI investment sedentary. In my video, I said once it strays too far away from that 30%, right? If we're not seeing close to 33.333 across the board, 33.333 bullish, 33.333 neutral, 30.333 bearish, you get it? If we deviate too far away from that, do the opposite. This is dumb money. These are idiots like us. These are retail traders, okay? Look at what it caused the bounce here on the week of the 115. We said the bounce was coming, even though it started in a gap down that week. 25% bullish, 40 bearish. We cannot have 40%. If we see 40%, do the opposite like we said in our video. It cannot deviate that far away from the 30-some% equal spread. This means dumb money thought the week of 115 was going to be bearish. 40%, way too high. 122 last week, 43% bullish, only 29 bearish. Oh my God, do the opposite. Let's look at the weekly real quick during the pause of the breakdown to look what happened here. Here's the QQQ. Just so you guys can see this real fast, because this is just a monstrosity, okay? This is the week right here, 2 weeks back, where they said, oh, the world's over. It's 100% bearish. The weekly started here in a gap down, okay? Weekly opens here. Here's last week's lows. Open up. That means all the idiots thought it was bearish. Idiots are us. That's the retail traders. Look what happened. Wham, okay? The week of the 22nd right here, they thought everything was massively bullish to that top side, and that was ending the week. How is 3 gap ups on SPY and a huge move off the 100 EMA hitting all-time high in SPY bullish? It was coming into this week. It was the opposite, right? So the 22 hits, you do the opposite because that sentiment, it ran it for the week, sure, but that big print says do the opposite coming into the week, okay? So we started with a very big drop side potential with that. Now, NQ, trend line. This is how we caught the long, okay? The knife, the big scary, oh my God, it's too hard, it's knife's catching. No, we just wait till something absolute hits, okay? So a couple things here, 21K. What do we know about 21K? Big psychological half-whole dollar, right? What do we know about this giant green line on the intraday chart? That is the 100 EMA on the daily, but we have it coded on the inside, right? What do we know about NQ's personality? It likes to slip. So if you thought it was going to pressure bounce a beautiful, just to the penny bounce, you were getting on this green candle, and then it smacked you and says, hey, I'm NQ, watch this. We're this close to the 100 EMA, and we're at obvious support of 21,000. And you go to the minute chart, and this is what my trade was based off, the minute chart. I bought it because of these 3 legs into the minute right here. So into, now mind you here, 5 a.m., okay, 3 big things here. 100 EMA, time frame for new candles. This is 5 a.m. Central right here. The consolidation is 5 a.m. New candle, pressure at 1 minute. Look at this 1 minute structure break. That is insane. Let's go to the 21K break, right? And then it's sped up under 21K. This candle formation is monstrously ridiculous into the 100 EMA. It was not going to continue unless it had some kind of Black Monday catalyst. The China DeepSeek is not a black swan catalyst. It's just not. Got to use your head. 21K breaks, and these 4 candles that launched themselves on the minute, 4 minutes, 164 points into the 100 EMA. Hell no, that thing's bouncing. So I was on the treadmill at the gym, longing all this right here back up to 21K. And that was one of our biggest trade calls today. And we called the 5-minute fair value gap as target. You see that big old gray box up there? This was the long. And then we called an algo target of 22.08. So we are banging the long right here. We come into the fair value gap right here. We put the target out in the chat, and we said long from riding the 10 SMA. What do we know about the 10 structure? Comes up, price action, holds 10, right? But the break back up of structure, right? This high and this high on the downside of the 5 got beat out right here. So what do you look for? This high and this high was taken out. You wait for the pullback to confirm the reversal. What's the pullback look like? Closing directly on a 10 SMA. We love 10 SMA rides. Check out our YouTube video on how to use these moving averages correctly. A lot of people don't know how, actually. And that brings us to the last part of the big three, the trend line from the daily. Look at this big nasty bad boy here. So it broke trend right here, hits the 100 EMA. What's it have to do? Oh, you're right. Retest confirmation, because we have to retest this trend line before it confirms weakness. But we caught the scalp, 100 EMA, long to there. We called 150 some points. Let's just be honest. We were up in here calling it. 175 to the fair value gap, and I called 21,208 for our chat as well. Right here, 275 points. So we had two really good outlook moves to that upside, and we made a great killing off this. Now look at that trend line. Look at that back test of the 50. Here's another confirmational. Breaks the 50 SMA daily, 100 EMA, 50. Very nice. Hovers to the break of that trend line, breaks down, snaps right off the fair value gap right here. That was our target. Back up to the 200 SMA and just kind of relaxes. Now we're in uncertainty. Is the fear, hype, greed, is it warranted? Well, we're going to wait for confirmation now. We got a banger of an NQ candle. So tomorrow's setup on a gap down, especially when they're this big, we're going to fib out the whole range, right? And we're going to use it as an over-under. If we get above yesterday's close, which is going to be obviously today's close, and above 21,266 for hold, we're going to watch it come up and bang into the 10 SMA daily. Anything over the 50 SMA daily, anything over 21, 38, 50, 61 is a little late in my opinion, so I would use this one. I would use the close. Be mindful where this close is. Over, under the close. Use the close. Okay. And where are we going? The GP potential top. So we have a scalp here. Above close to GP. 81 points. That is a shit ton on NQ. We come up to the body, half retrace of the body as well. So 50% of the body. You draw a line through the body. If we're above yesterday's close and trending, we could hit halfway through the body, 50%. So another fib could be used at the body. Now, this gap down in futures will eventually fill. They always do. And when they come into the availability to fill, this volatility is going to get shaken off. We're going to stop the knee-jerk, panic crybaby stuff. We're going to hold trend. We're most likely going to build. We're going to close green January, and we're just going to get back to business to the upside. I call maybe one, I don't see two, one more all-time high for the year, and we're going to get kind of static. We're going to get choppy. It's going to get volatile. We're going to get some good candles to play, but 2026 is it. Into 2025, 6 is going to be a range, and I think it's dead in 26, coming down for at least 2-3 years. We'll see if I'm right. We got further breakdowns on that. But thanks for tuning in. If you want to catch this stuff live, links in the description. We break down this market every single day. I'm usually up at 4 or 5 in the morning on the mobile, watching the markets, talking, and proceeding to help the prediction of the market. Now, for the rest of the week, we have insane data from PCE, Narn Farm on the Friday, GDP on Thursday, and the big old FOMC on Wednesday. So if those rates go bonkers, let's say he does nothing. I don't know if the Trump pressure is going to get another cut. I don't know. We're going to see. It's going to be nuts. But I have a sneaking suspicion by the end of the week, if we stay above the 100 EMA first, that's for tomorrow, leading into FOMC. After that, we'll hold the 50 and come back up and fill that gap. If not, under the 50 FOMC down, break of the 100. We'll assess that when it comes to fruition. We're going to worry about the upside first. So links in the description to trade with us live. If not, we'll see you on the next YouTube video. You guys take care.